Stand up and be counted. It's a familiar saying, but right now it applies to every single person in our country. It's census time, time to secure funding for schools, roads, and much more. We will take a look at what's new with the census, why it's so important, and some programs the census helps to fund on this edition of Connected Colorado. At the state capitol to find out what people know about the census. Did you guys know the U.S. Census was coming up?
No.
I did not.
No, I wasn't aware of it.
So you know the U.S. Census is coming up?
Yes.
Do you plan on taking part?
Yes.
Any idea what the population is in Colorado?
Oh man, that's difficult.
Oh gosh, we've had so much growth.
12 million.
I have no idea. We're
5
from Colorado.
5.7 million. Nice. What do you think the population is in the United States?
300 million-ish, aren't you?
I don't know, about 300 million.
It's 330 million.
Oh.
How much money do you think Colorado will get as a result of the census?
We'll say 100,000 a year.
$13 billion a year.
Oh my goodness.
$13 billion a year.
Oh my God.
For Colorado. $13 billion a year
Okay.
as a result of it.
Okay.
So knowing that, you think you're gonna fill out your little census card?
Yeah, I guess if it comes my way, I'll fill it out.
Do you think it is important?
Yes.
Why?
Because we need everyone to participate to get accurate data of like what the landscape of the U.S. is right now. So
It gives a snapshot of what our country is at this point in time. How many people, just the makeup of it. So I think it's important.
We are here at the beautiful Colorado State Capitol. Hi everyone, I'm Wendy Brockman. It's fitting that we're here because the state will benefit so much from your participation in the U.S. Census. First up, let's see how a local brewery in Aurora is supporting the census.
My name is Javier Perez. I'm an emergency physician and owner of Cheluna Brewing Company in Aurora, Colorado. I'm first generation born in this country of Mexican immigrant parents.
My name is Jennifer Perez, and I am the owner and manager of Cheluna Brewing Company in Aurora, Colorado.
Cheluna is a made-up word, chela, which is a slang word in Mexico for ice-cold beer. And Luna, moon, which is part of our logo. Aurora was the perfect fit for us. We love the diversity. I think everybody should be counted.
I think participating in the census is a part of creating change. It's part of our civic duty.
Not only by completing the census do you attract business to your community, you're creating jobs in your community.
Please help our public schools by filling out your census forms.
You're giving your community a voice in Washington.
It's very easy.
The census is a way that we here at Cheluna can focus on the good. We're doing something good for Aurora, we're doing something good for Colorado, and something good for our country. I want to be heard, be seen, and be counted.
Be heard, be seen, be counted.
Yes, be counted, definitely. Well, the Denver region of the U.S. Census, a 12-state area, has set up a large field office in Lakewood to help prepare for the effort.
The mechanisms for counting the U.S. population have been going into place for months now, says the Denver Regional Director, Kathy Lacey.
If we talk about what we're doing right now, we're updating our address list. So if people see a census worker who has a laptop and a census bag, then they're working for our local office to update our address list. The state of Colorado has been very good about responding, so we're certainly hoping that will be the case again.
New this year, an opportunity to complete your census quickly online.
Certainly over 50% of the people that would traditionally have responded through mail would go online and complete their census questionnaire.
You'll soon be receiving a notice from the Census Bureau about the website involved and additional instructions for completion. And if you choose the online option,
If we give them the link, that we give them an ID, they log in and just complete it. We will not send an email invitation. This is only through the mail, and of course it says U.S. Census Bureau on it.
and by the way, participating in the census is not optional.
It is mandatory, and it's actually every resident in the U.S. are required to respond to the census.
Required by law and incredibly important to your community and your state. There are seats in Congress at stake, billions in federal dollars distributed for schools, roads, and hospitals, and potential new boundaries for congressional districts and school districts alike. The Census Campaign urges Americans to shape their future. Start here. Stand up, be counted, and make an actual difference.
In a moment, we'll go more in depth, but first, let's get a little background on the census.
What is the 2020 census? Every 10 years, the census records everyone living in this country. It's written in the Constitution and comes in a questionnaire that counts everyone who lives at your address on April 1st. The data can be used to inform funding for services like fire stations, schools, clinics, and representation that affect your community.
How will 2020 census data be used? Where there are more people, there are more needs for public services. That's why the census is used by the government to inform funding decisions each year. But that's not all. It's also used by nonprofits to inform services, by businesses to create jobs, and even by students for school projects. Understanding how the population changes helps us shape communities across the country for the better.
How does the 2020 census affect representation? There are 435 seats in the House of Representatives. These get distributed to the 50 states by population, and an accurate census response helps your state get the right amount of seats. States with smaller populations get at least one, while states with larger populations might get more.
How do I take the 2020 census? In March 2020, every address in the country will receive an invitation to complete a simple questionnaire, and there are 3 ways to respond. Number 1, do it online. Number 2, call by phone. Number 3, send it by mail. For those who don't respond, a census taker from your community will follow up and assist you.
Is my 2020 census data safe? After sending your census response, your personal information is kept safe. By law, it can't be shared with any other government agency, law enforcement, or landlord. No one. So take your 2020 census with peace of mind. Shape your future. Start here. Visit 2020census.gov.
And now joining me is Natrice Bryant with the Colorado Department of Local Affairs and Lily Griego with the U.S. Census Bureau. Ladies, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
The U.S. Constitution actually requires that we do a census every 10 years. Why do we do it? How do we use that information?
So the information is used at the federal level and at the local level. 2 main purposes that we really seek to educate people on why is a census important to you and why should I fill it out. Well, number 1, there's $675 billion annually at stake for this.
Billion
dollars annually that we want to make sure comes back to our local communities. First of all, we want to make sure it comes back to Colorado, and then we want to make sure that everyone has access to the fair share of the pie, especially as much as Colorado has grown.
Yes.
Secondly, we talk about reapportionment of the United States Congress. So the main purpose of the census when the forefathers wrote the Constitution was to allocate equal representation. So the number is 435 people in the House of Representatives, and that's determined by population or census counts.
So Natrice, in terms of the state of Colorado, how is it significant?
It's significant because we get $13 billion per year.
Per year?
Per year. We get it for roads, education, medical. We also have housing programs, school lunch programs, and people don't necessarily think about those things when they think about census money coming to the state. It's also important for us to recognize that we have a significant population that's grown. Lily talked a little bit about our growth in population. We have about 5.7 million people in the state today.
And it's grown by what, 750,000?
Correct.
Since the last?
Yeah, since the last census. And we've had net migration, so we've got people coming in and out from different places, and there's philosophy about where those people are coming from. But what we want to make sure is that everyone who's here in the state of Colorado is counted in the state. We want our kids to know that when they get into middle school, even though they were 2 when the census happened, they'll be in middle school by the 10th year. And so that money really matters to make sure that we're getting our kids the education they need, we're getting the road infrastructure put together that we need to have, we're able to fund Pell Grants and things like that to really build our future for our kids.
So Lily, what's new with the census this year?
I'm really excited. So we have kept up with our current technology, and we are introducing a format to respond to the 2020 census online, by phone. You'll also get some information in the mail. So most folks across the country, approximately 95%, are going to get invited to participate by mail. They'll get a form in the mail. It'll say the United States Census Bureau on the envelope. It's really important to open up that piece of paper. It has a self-identifier that will tell that household, it's time to respond. Here's your number. Please take time to fill out this form. If you have 1 person in your household, you want to fill it out for person number 1. If you have 10 people in your home, you'll want to fill it out for all 10 people normally sleeping and staying in your home.
Even if it's a baby?
Absolutely. I love that you said that.
Yeah.
So babies born up until the day of April 1st, which is traditional census day, will be counted in the 2020 census. If you prefer a phone option, I'm on the phone all the time. I love the phone, so I would prefer to dial in. Yeah. You can call in English and 12 other languages and do the same sort of self-response to the phone, plus the internet is the introduction that we have available also in 12 other languages in addition to English.
Wow.
Very accessible.
So the actual census day is April 1st.
Yes.
But you can start filling out your form before then?
Yes, great point. Thank you for bringing that up. So we will begin to mail forms out in early March.
Early March.
And the phone lines will also go live in early March. And so people can start responding just in a matter of weeks. Yeah. Literally, it's a couple months away. So if you're watching this and it happens to be much later in the summer and you're wondering, hey, they're talking about this and it was a long time ago, you still have opportunities to respond online, by phone, or by mail up until the very last day of our process. But we really highly encourage that immediate self-response.
Okay, and the ultimate deadline is in July.
July is our last day for collection of data, July 31st. And again, we really, really want to see folks responding online, by phone, or by mail as soon as they get the invitation to do so. We will have enumerators, or people that go to door to door to collect the census data, beginning essentially summer, but it's really encouraging folks to see that immediate self-response so that the Census Bureau has the opportunity to identify where else do we need to do some more education and some work to make sure that people are responding.
Okay, Natrice, how have you been gearing up for this? What have you been doing?
The executive order in 2018 was passed by former Governor John Hickenlooper. We had an appointment of 36 members to the State Complete Count Committee. So it's 36 people across the state, as far north as Fort Collins, northeast is Sterling, as far as southwest is Cortez. And so we wanted to make sure that there was a large group that was able to figure out how do we really do the outreach in some of the areas that are harder to count. Hard to count is a term that you'll constantly hear of people that are hard to count or have a low response rate for the census. So like Lily was talking about, there's a certain percentage that will receive an actual card in the mail, and then there's a certain percentage that won't. So we formed 8 different subcommittees to really address some of those hard to count populations, rural Colorado being one of them.
A lot of prep.
Yes, a lot of prep happened, but it's also important to recognize that these are trusted voices in the community that can tell us at the state level, here's what we need in certain communities. So somebody in Cortez is going to need something different than someone in Sterling, will need something different than a Denver metro area.
Do you have to take it? Can you opt out?
We do not want you to opt out. We need every single person to be counted in Colorado. Our apportionment dollars, reapportionment, the dollars that we're getting really count and mean that we need to know how many people are in Colorado.
So Natrice, tell me more about how the money is spent. Is it divvied up to the states and then the counties?
So I think you're really talking about allocation. So what happens is the money comes into those 55 federal programs that we talked about earlier. Those dollars, because we're a local control state, it's not as if the state gets the money and we distribute it across the board. Those programs get the money. And then those programs within those counties distribute the money based on need in that community. For example, if we use Section 8 as an example, each county has a housing authority. Each housing authority has a Section 8 program. the Section 8 program would receive money for that program, and then that is distributed to the counties based on the need. Also for free and reduced lunch programs, school lunch, business loans, things of that nature. There's all types of programs that receive the money. It's not as if it comes to the State Department and then we push it out to all the counties. It actually goes to the programmatic perspective. The program then distributes based on allocation for those counties.
Lily, is it a long form? Like how many questions?
So it's less than 10 questions. And yesterday we did a statewide gathering and we talked about the grant money that Colorado has, and we're going to come to that, I hope, in a couple minutes. But what I thought was a really great exercise in this process of all of us not only advocating for people to fill out the census, but just a constant state of learning. We did a quick filling out the form themselves, everybody in the room. The shortest time was less than a minute to fill it out for one person, and about the max time was about 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
So easy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Ease and accessibility. Yeah.
Do they ask for personal information like your social security number?
Great question. So we do ask for personal information. We ask for your name, your home address, or where you're staying on April 1st, the address of that location. We also ask for your date of birth. And so some people give that information quite freely. Some people are very protective of that information. We ask for information less intrusive than a credit card application. Okay. We will never ask for your social security number. We will never ask for bank account or credit card information. We'll never ask you to give a donation of any kind. There's not any form of payment associated with this. And we certainly would never associate it with any political party. So this is constitutionally mandated for the entire country.
So we see identity theft, there's cybersecurity. How are you protected if you fill it out online?
I love that you asked this question. Again, since we've gone to the internet, we've taken great precaution to make sure, and if I can kind of just add a tidbit of information related to the question that Natrice just answered, the process so that people understand this is that we will stop collecting data on July 31st. The data is then given to the White House on December 31st, 2020, and released to the states March of 2021 for redistricting at the local level. In that process, we make sure to safeguard this information, again, by internet, by phone, and the paper processing. The Census Bureau is the #1 data gatherer in the entire country, and we protect our reputation on that by safeguarding individual or private information. So all of that information will be released to the White House in statistical format only. Yeah.
So also in terms of security, unfortunately, you may have someone come to your door representing that they're from the census and they actually aren't. So there's some things you can look for to make sure they're legit, right?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, and I know Natrice has talked to some of the local governments about how to best navigate this conversation at the front door and with local communities. What the Census Bureau has done is taken precautions to make sure that folks understand who we are. We can talk about this from the local level. What will folks expect from communications at the local level with the complete count committees that we've formed up, but what does it look like when a census taker comes to your front door?
They have a uniform, they have a badge.
They actually have a badge and a bag that will have the census logo on it. We do not have a uniform. And I think that it's really important that folks understand we have so many people doing this, and it's also an election year. They might see different people coming to their door. So we want to make sure that they understand census workers will have a federal ID.
Okay, and they're not with a political party.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's a nonpartisan process. This relates to everyone in the country.
So anything else you want people to know?
Well, there's tons. Like, how much time do you have? I think it's just really important to recognize that this is an important and safe and easy process. Lily talked about the amount of time that it can take someone to fill it out. This is money that's going to impact the next 10 years of our lives. 9 questions, 10 minutes approximately, but it impacts the next 10 years of your life. And so we're looking at road infrastructure, we're looking at schools, we're looking at funding for education. We need to make sure that everybody in Colorado is counted. And that's really why this is a federal, state, and local partnership. We're doing PSAs. The Census Bureau has released several PSAs that we share with the local communities. It is important that we get to that trusted voice. Lily and I are both employees of the government, right? So we're trusted to an extent, but if we talk to the local pastor in the local community, they are a trusted voice. We've even talked about having Census Sunday or something like that where people can stand up and just fill out the census as a community and come together and really show the importance of that information and how it impacts the community.
Lily, some final words.
Yeah, I agree with Natrice. This is something that we could talk about all day long. There is so much fascinating work and data that comes back to our local communities that's associated with conducting a census every 10 years. Everyone has access to it. Everyone is invited to participate, but I think some really important things are to think about future generations. So this has a long-term consequence on our communities. So every time someone takes the opportunity to fill out the census, they're speaking their voice and being represented in Colorado or any county in our state, all 64 counties, any local community, and they're speaking up and saying, I am counted, I'm part of this community, and I'm giving back part of my civic duty to contribute to my schools, my hospitals, my clinics, the road construction that we so desperately need and want, and access to all of the things that people want to make life in America fun, exciting, and better for every generation thereafter.
Lily and Natrice, thank you so much for being with us and breaking it down.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you for
guys.
having us. Thanks, Natrice.
We'll be back with more on the census and how it benefits Colorado.
Why should I care about the 2020 census?
Our numbers help shape funding and services.
For all these things.
That's a lot of stuff.
No matter who you are or where you're from, we have reasons to care.
Shape your future. Start here at 2020census.gov.
Welcome back to Connected Colorado and our look at the 2020 census. You've heard about some of the ways it helps Colorado. One of those ways is libraries, and there's one in Broomfield that believes in the power of the early years of a child's development.
What we really believe at the library is that when parents read, talk, sing, play, and write with their children, they're preparing them for learning and kindergarten and also the rest of their life.
It's going to be a square. Do you see any squares? My name is Zach, and I have a almost 3-year-old daughter, Kaylee. The Broomfield Children's Library is amazing. The rotating play area, always something new for them to play with.
The first 5 years of a child's life is when parents and caregivers are getting children ready to learn in school. Kids are developing their brains very rapidly in the first 5 years, and so it's a great opportunity for parents to provide positive moments throughout the day where learning can happen.
Kaylee really likes the story times. Kaylee loves going to all the different versions of it. Sometimes they have the special events on Saturdays, like a dance party upstairs, but the weekly story times kind of anchor our schedule.
Do you want to get some books?
Reading is the single most important activity that you could do with your children to help prepare them for school. It introduces lots of vocabulary that kids will encounter when they start to read on their own. It's also a loving moment where you can take a break with your child and build your positive relationship with your young one.
Just the resources that are kind of gathered together. We go to story time, we see a pamphlet about a dance event coming up at the Broomfield Auditorium. We'll go to that. Kaylee will have another great experience. The playgrounds at all of the different parks are great. Pauldurter Recreation Center has been awesome. The childcare while you're doing a workout. We do the summer concert series out here on the lawn. Broomfield Days is a lot of fun. The 4th of July celebration out on the Commons, we really do like it. She's made a lot of her friends through the programs.
I would say take a deep breath, come to the library, play with your children, and spend some time talking with our knowledgeable staff so that you can find the resources you need in the community. If you would like to find out more about the Broomfield Children's Library, visit us at broomfieldchildrenslibrary.org.
Very cool. Now, the census also helps fund Colorado's roads. Now, let's meet someone who makes sure they're passable, even in the snow.
Plowing through the snow in a 13-ton sled. Over the streets he goes, keeping everyone safe.
I like the challenge of it.
No, Shane Russell isn't Santa Claus. His beard's not big enough.
You can't see where you're going.
And he doesn't have a sack full of toys, but instead, he's got a whole lot of liquid and granular de-icer.
This button right here, I can turn on my spinners and put out the slice.
And a big plow.
When we have to put our plows down, it's game on.
Shane is just one of the snowplow operators the city unleashes when the fluffy stuff begins to fall. We head home, the plows hit the streets.
Street 17 to Mike Quante.
With more than 1,300 miles of roadway that may need to be cleared, there has to be a method when the plows go out.
Right now, I'm just trying to widen the street out a little bit more.
Now the plows first target the major through streets, the reds. This ensures routes to hospitals, fire and police stations, and rescue squad units are clear.
And then today we'll get into the greens and blues.
The green and blues, those are your residential and neighborhood streets.
We're really doing snow and ice control as a public safety function. The average citizen in Aurora, their total contribution in taxes to the city's snow fighting activities was about $4.50. This will give us hourly data.
Tom McMenemy, the street operations manager for the city,
Fighting in these areas, that can get a little dicey.
plays a crucial role when a storm is on the horizon.
Track storms up to 4 or 5 days in advance. We want to be on the front edge of a storm when we're fighting it, because the whole thing we're trying to do is to keep ice from bonding to the pavement. If we wait until there's 2 or 3 inches of snow on the ground before we hit the road, we're behind the storm.
I couldn't see. I was going off the cat eyes.
Those guys are fighter pilots. They really are. They are getting in their plows to go do a job when we're telling everybody else, go home.
While these plows are out and about to keep us safe, we can help the cause too.
Just give us some space, you know. Nobody wants to get in an accident. Just give us some space.
And when the next storm is in the forecast, you better believe Shane will be out there on those roads again.
And we're the eyes and ears out there.
For Aurora News Weekly, I'm Matt Peterson.
Yes, we bow to the plow. Now in Boulder, they are taking a holistic approach to the census.
Hi, I'm Phil Kleisler. I work as a planner for the city of Boulder. The story of preparing for the 2020 census in Boulder is really one about collaboration. And when we set out in this process last year, we really saw the city's role as a convener of getting folks together to have interesting conversations. And so we kicked off in 2019 with that work. And really early on in that process, we realized that we needed to have more than the usual players at the table, and we needed to take a more holistic regional approach to getting the word out about the census.
I'm Chris Barge, Vice President of Strategic Initiatives for Community Foundation Boulder County. This is the first time we're going to have a primarily online rollout. It's going to be more important than ever that we have a grassroots collaborative local approach. And so we were thrilled with the City of Boulder, the City of Longmont, Boulder County, nonprofits, and both college campuses in our county that they all wanted to come together and jointly apply for a cut of the state funding made available. We came together, we formed relationships, and we decided what we would do to encourage a complete count. Fortunately, at the Community Foundation, we were able to raise some money so that we'll be able to help nonprofits through some directed grants hire a team of cultural brokers. These are people from hard-to-count communities who know their communities best. These nonprofits will be hiring them. The county will be helping to organize them and providing materials, but we're hopeful that here in Boulder County, with all of these collaborations in partnership with the cultural brokers who know our hard-to-count populations the best, we will be able to have as complete and accurate a count as possible.
Census Day is April 1st, so make sure you participate and help Colorado get $13 billion a year. Thanks to the Colorado State Capitol and the Colorado Senate for having us. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Connected Colorado. It's time to stand up and be counted. It's time for the 2020 census. We'll tell you what's new this year, why it's important, how you can participate, and some of the programs it helps fund on the next edition of Connected Colorado.